Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue, and we have plenty of wrestling news as always to cover today. We are talking Cody Rhodes taking shots at The Rock for a spot at WrestleMania that he hasn't even guaranteed yet. We're talking the return of Mercedes money and whenabouts we should be expecting that to happen. We're talking Wargames, rumours now that Becky Lynch and Randy Orton could be added to their respective gendered teams. Drew McIntyre's heel turn will get an update. It's a-coming, more on that shortly. We'll talk a little bit about my recent Sunday video. As usual, I like to highlight what I'm doing with the rest of the channel. And we'll talk about the Goodbye Vince McMahon video that I put up there on Sunday and how well that's doing at the moment. Brock Lesnar is expected to return to the Royal Rumble. I talk about some potential opponents and some potential storylines being lined up for him. A upcoming push for Solo Sikoa. Now that he's vanquished John Cena, there are big plans for Solo Sikoa and they're very excited about what they're putting together for him. And finally, I want to highlight what's going on with the Bayley face turn that you're now seeing rumours of everywhere after, of course, it was first reported here. So there's plenty to cover and we will, of course, be answering as many of your questions as we can as well. The first point then is Cody Rhodes and The Rock, and my word, isn't Cody Rhodes a boisterous boy? On an interview with Busted Open Radio, in an interview where Cody was asked a question about The Rock at WrestleMania, Cody defended his right to claim his spot at WrestleMania, stating that while he had massive respect for The Rock, he didn't think that The Rock would be taking his spot, because if The Rock even tried, Cody would be standing up and stopping him. Pardon me. Now, in many ways, that's a wonderful thing and really helps for the build of where we are going forwards when it comes to the world of Cody Rhodes, when it comes to the world of Roman Reigns. Ultimately, these are two men fighting for the right to lose to Roman Reigns. Cody's probably going to win, let's forget what I said just there. But when it comes to Cody Rhodes, he sees the way the wind is blowing. The Rock potentially did some damage to Cody's push and Cody's position if he's indeed going to be the person challenging Roman Reigns. In fact, the response of Cody Rhodes heavily suggests that he will be the one facing Roman Reigns, and certainly the rumour mill and wrestling media in general suggest that that is going to be the case as well. So while Cody Rhodes is laying out challenges to The Rock, it's not for a match, it's basically a stay away so you don't ruin my momentum. Cody Rhodes is fully aware that in the past he's had his momentum pretty harshly hit to the point that fans have turned on him heavily in AEW, and privately he's said to be concerned that he may lose his momentum in the same way once again. There are some concerns with Cody Rhodes' promos that he's coming off a bit too much like a, let's say, Rocky Maivia character, and it will harm his character in the long term. So this is an easy, simple way for Cody Rhodes to get a bit more edge to him by firing some shots at The Rock. I want to say hi to everyone already in the chat. There are plenty of you. Hello, Daniela. Ricky Carr says hi as well. Spiderboss says, good video about Vince. It's amazing that now most of the wrestling media became pro WWE. Bayley says hello, Tom. Hello. Michael says hi, Tom, as well. Welcome. Tyler G says hello to everyone. Hello from everyone to you, Tyler. Robin Dave says, hey, Tom, how you doing this evening? Doing okay. Be a bit of a life update to come later, but doing okay. Spiderboss says, happy to hear Mercedes giving an update about when she will return to wrestling. Noob says, hello, Tom and everyone. Hope you're doing well. Ed says, hey, everyone. Hello, Ed. How are you, sir? Kelly says, hey, Tom, mate. Thanks for the update on Brock Lesnar. Thanks for the update on your shorts video. There'll be more on Brock Lesnar to come. Tommy says, happy Monday Night Raw night. It is Monday Night Raw night indeed, which I, of course, as usual, will be watching on a Tuesday. Richard, I will be covering the PWInsider report shortly. Dan says, hello, Tom. Who's the devil? Personally, I'm still going for Luke Perry. I can definitely see it. Eric says, hey, Tom, how you doing? Doing well, thank you, Eric. Welcome to the show. Joey says, hey, Tom, is it true Becky will be? More on that later. Sean says, hello, Tom. Hello, Sean. Spiderboss says, I hope the big push for Solo Sikoa means he gets to match at WrestleMania 40 against Roman. No, Wiggly. I did not report anything about Sonny. Gonna double check. I know you messaged me, but that's right before the show. I didn't check it. Guessing you were telling me something about this. No. Fair enough. Can you tell me what you're talking about there, Wiggly? Jackie P says, hi, Tom and everyone. How's it going tonight? Going well, thank you. Richard says, hello Tom, is Randy unhealthy enough to be Cody's fifth man? More on that shortly. Joey says, it's nice to see Meltzer confirming your report of Brock returning at the Rumble. It is indeed. There's been a few of my reports recently that have been confirmed either by Dave Meltzer or some other part of wrestling media, or indeed by Mercedes Money herself. So it's always very nice to see those happen. We have 36 people watching at the moment and only the 12 likes. Our record for this point in time is 33, so I think we can potentially up our game a little bit and get a few more likes in there. 3 more gets us to 15, so if you can be one of the 3, you could be the one. Thank you, Wiggly. Appreciate you updating me on that. Clyde says, push-ups and spoiler warning. I mean, I do need to get fit. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing well, thank you, Leon. And Spider Boss, Jay White's damn good. Really is a heel. Bullet Club Gold is one of the best things in AEW. Michael says, Cody's whole thing is just not what AEW fans wanted, and it'll get old in WWE too. I kind of agree with that. Hopefully he gets more edge beforehand. Sean says, do you see Becky getting involved in Zaya versus Indy? I do not. She is a face, and that's not something that typically is what happens with faces. Tommy, more on that shortly. Pete says, hey Tom, my lad. Hey everyone in chat. We need more tables in WWE. I'm severely withdrawn. Everyone likes to get the tables. For those who don't know, you do get a few specialist emotes when you're a channel member. So if you've recently been gifted a channel membership, check out the emote section. You'll have tables and you'll have options. Eric says, with Asuka and Kairi Sane joining Damage Control, do you think next year will be the year of Damage Control? More on that shortly. Roger says, reports are circulating from the Wrestling Observer that AEW is attempting to sign Eva Marie to bolster the star power of the women's division. Hope the report is not true. I find it very unlikely that that's the case. Noob says, your thoughts on Asuka heel turn and joining Damage Control on SmackDown. More on that shortly. We are talking Wargames, we're talking Damage Control, we're also talking Bayley. Spider-Boss says, Cody Rhodes on his promo sometimes sounds as babyface as John Cena. That's the intention. Joey says, I think the fans will turn on Cody if they keep doing the same stuff with the Judgment Day. After Wargames, that will be less likely going forwards. Hector says, afternoon Tom, I don't know about anyone else, but I'm just slightly worried that Roman may have the title past Mania because commentary has been mentioning Hulk Hogan's reign more lately, insinuating Reigns may be the one to beat that reign, because in kayfabe, they don't know when he's going to win or lose, so they have to celebrate achievements. Mustafa says, happy Monday, don't forget to like. Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you very kindly. We're only one like away from 20 now. 23 Fresh says, why did Eva leave the E? She got fired, mate. She got fired. Richard says, hello Tom, is Dakota Kai Damage Control silent leader? More on that shortly. Joey says, do you know if Asuka will be forming a new faction with Io and Kairi? More on that shortly. Hello Chris, how you doing, mate? Hello Chris, and more on that shortly. Let's get to our next piece of news. It's an update on the return status of Mercedes Money. I've already reported it, but it has now been confirmed by Mercedes Money herself. I do just want to point out, Mercedes Money is very unlikely to wrestle before 2024. There is the potential for her to wrestle at Wrestle Kingdom if she is fit and healthy by that point. I find it very unlikely, unfortunately. She is still carrying an injury. She is still in the process of rehab, and I don't want people to be pushing her. She is one of those that does need some time to recover, and it just is going to be one of those things where she needs to rest up and not push herself too hard. Mercedes Money is one of those people where, fortunately, I've been able to report a lot of news over the past few years. I know quite a few people are here purely because of that news. No more than Michael, who came for one of my very first reports on Sasha Banks and hasn't left since. So thank you as always, Michael. When it comes to Mercedes, she's not pushing herself too hard. She has not signed a new deal with any company, though there was a deal on the table and still is a deal on the table with AEW. She is going to wait to see how she is feeling and what the status of the company is, given, let's just say, the Ric Flair of it all. The Ric Flair of it all is probably the best thing I can say. Yes. Hey, Juan, how you doing, mate? 23 Fresh says, what did Eva get fired? Yep, Google it, mate. Plenty to see there. And Brad says, don't forget to get the tables. Don't forget to get. Hard phrase. Hector says, I don't know if you're going to mention this, but is Dakota even close to being cleared to wrestle, especially, pardon me, with Wargames on the horizon? More on that shortly. Chris says, Io Sky is WWE Women's Champion for 100 days. She is indeed. And Joey says, do you know if Mercedes has signed anything with AEW yet, or is she still considering her options? That would be the latter. P says, remember Tables are not just for WWE, very true. And Ed throws a woo in there and then froze up. Also says Eva has been fired twice. She has, that's a very fair point. She has indeed been fired twice. Thank you very much, Pete, for showing us some of the different emotes we have. The source one, I think, is a good shout. Anytime I mention what's your source on that, that could be a lot of fun. I like the source one. Also, the spoiler warning thumbs up. Absolutely love it. Sided me an absolute wonder and an absolute favour on that one. Michael says, does Mercedes still intend to wrestle with New Japan/Stardom? A lot of people think she's leaving New Japan, but I don't think there's any reason to believe that. She still intends to wrestle in Japan with New Japan/Stardom, as you say. There is still a championship with her name on it, and Bushiroad wants to get her that championship once again because she did very good numbers for the company. They still want to work with her. A deal with AEW was supposed to include a situation whereby she could work in both areas at once. Spiderball says, watching the AEW women's division and how Tony Khan is booked, I get why Mercedes is having second thoughts. Apparently that's not it. Apparently it is literally the Ric Flair. Mick says, hey Tom, hope you're fine. Doing very well, thank you Mick, and hope you're good too. I see your TikTok continues to do very, very well. Yes, Wiggly, Eva Marie did return. She worked with Doudrop for a while. Martin says, hey Tom, been here since the first Bray news. It's sad that will never happen again. It is. It is a very sad fact that that won't happen again. But I was very proud to be able to present news that I know a lot of Bray Wyatt fans really did love. So I was glad to be involved in that. Alyssa says, do you see Jey Uso as a world champion? The feud, love see Drew versus Jey for the title. No, I don't see Jey Uso ever being a world champion. Joey says, I think the Royal Rumble is when we could see Dakota back. Don't think it would be a good idea throwing her in a big match right off a knee injury. More on that very shortly. Michael says, how would Eva Marie add star power when she has none? There is an element of it. Spiderboss says, I remember the New Japan Women's Strong title was made for Mercedes. It was indeed. And I'm confident she will wear it before her time is up. Sean says, do you think Ric Flair being there is why Bunny left AEW? No, it is not. Wiggly says, I think Asuka and Io and Kairi form their own group and dispose of Bayley and Dakota. More on that shortly. Zane says, I'm loving CJ Perry being a manager and not a wrestler in AEW. Oh, Eric says the YouTube is lagging. Does anyone else have lag on the YouTube? Please do check in if you are suffering from that. It looks like we're having a few issues with YouTube in general at the moment. I don't think it's necessarily my internet, though we do have a storm, as always. Michael says, Mercedes must be afraid that Rick will take TV time because they actually seem to be friends. There was a video of them FaceTiming in Japan earlier this year. I think as much as anything, it's the way that he's going to be used. I think it's one of those unfortunate things that while that is a major concern, the women's division just isn't getting the time from any area, and we keep seeing people in that position. Oh, sorry to hear that, Ed. So there is lag for some people and not lag for others. Interesting. Spiderball says, do you think some women in AEW want to leave now that Ric Flair is there? In any wrestling company, there are people who want to leave because they don't feel they're getting a fair shot. That will always be the case. Okay, so it may depend on the app. It's working on YouTube on the PS4, but not on mobile. Interesting. And Brad restarted the phone. It was fine. Okay, so it looks like it might be YouTube rather than necessarily the stream. Razar, you've missed a report on Cody Rhodes shooting on The Rock and the return schedule for Mercedes Money. Adam gives a source of JD from NY, and I absolutely stopped reading. Matthew says YouTube is good on my YouTube is fine, says Khalid. Wiggly says, is that how a company gets rid of people, by just bringing in Ric Flair? No. Michael says, do you think Tony booking 2 women's matches for Full Gear is an attempt to kind of prove himself to book more than one match? I hope so. I don't see it, but I hope so. John Gillis has a hot take that Mercedes goes back to WWE. I mean, Triple H wants it to happen. Absolutely wants it to happen. Thank you, Roger. Spiderboss says, at AW Collision is where the women's division has been getting more TV time lately, and while that's true, it's not the #1 show, which is where Mercedes wants to be. Joey says, do you see Logan working more dates now since he's taken a break from boxing? Yes, I do, though the phrase full-time is certainly a stretch. We have 29 likes, one more gets us to 30, so please be the one if you can. Next up, Wargames. The men's Wargames is set to feature Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso and Sami Zayn against the male members of Judgment Day, those being Damian Priest, Finn Balor, JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. Now, that does seem like a bit of a weak team overall when you consider what it's up against. Now, Adam, I see that you've retracted your message. JD from NY is not a source. I'm just going to be very clear on that one. He's not a source. They need a little more star power. They want a little more star power. Drew McIntyre is said to be planning to join the Judgment Day team. It will be a loose affiliation. It will not be the full and formal heel turn, but Wargames is said to be the trigger point for the feud between Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes, and that will necessitate a Drew McIntyre heel turn. The days and weeks after Wargames, Cody will have a serious target on his back, with Drew McIntyre's eyes locked right onto it. You may recall that when we were talking about Randy Orton returning, one of the first questions I asked you is, would you want him in Wargames? Well, according to Fightful Select, Randy Orton is planning to join the face team for Wargames, thus siding with Cody Rhodes against the team featuring Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre. This would mean we potentially have Randy Orton versus Damian Priest going forwards, and we start to build towards what I've already reported is incoming, Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. My eyes would be on WrestleMania if not for the fact that Cody Rhodes is a busy, busy man. Spider-Boss says the men's team for Survivor Series Wargames is made up most of guys who lost against Roman Reigns. That's because most guys have lost against Roman Reigns. Thanks to the update, Moises. It says legacy roots run deep for Cody and Randy. They do, and they both want to have that moment once again against each other, especially now that Edge is gone and we no longer have Edge versus Randy Orton to repeat. Khalid is excited to see Randy Orton back and misses him so much. On the women's side, Damage Control are our heels. It looks like it will be 4-on-4. Dakota Kai is not yet cleared to wrestle when it comes to Wargames. That said, she is planned to be cleared very, very shortly. I do expect, as I mentioned a few times, her to make an appearance in next year's Royal Rumble. So Dakota Kai is almost ready to be returning to wrestling. What I will say is that Dakota Kai is firmly on the side of Io Sky, Kairi Sane, and Asuka. The team for Wargames will be Bayley, Kairi Sane, Io Sky, and Asuka. They will currently be facing off against Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, and Shotzi. That leaves one spot available. PWInsider are reporting that it will be Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch right now doesn't have too much more to do, after all, so you might as well get her involved because, as I've mentioned, Triple H wants more star power because that will allow him to have people lower down the card appearing in the rest of the card. For example, The Miz versus Gunther. Becky Lynch then, the favourite it seems, to take on Damage Control and to renew hostilities with Bayley. Spider-Boss says it will be painful when Damage Control turn on Bayley. More on that later. Leon says I'd rather have Randy Orton back over CM Punk, to be honest. Same. The WWE are taking advantage of the fact that there are rumours of CM Punk returning to make more surprises. Cool, thank you, Eric. Razar says, do you think they're going to drag out the Bayley leaving Damage Control story? More on that later. Hector says, I'm ready to see Randy go at Dominic on the mic. That will be good stuff. Plus Randy versus any member of Judgment Day will be must watch. Finn Balor versus Randy Orton is going to be a lot of fun. Sean says, WWE announced a tribute to the troops will take place on Friday, December 8th, and it will be replacing that week's SmackDown. Thank you very kindly for the update, Sean. And Joey says, do you see Shinsuke doing an open challenge at Wargames? An open challenge for who? He doesn't have a championship, so what's the challenge for? What can they possibly win? That's my immediate concern. Well, Wiggly will still kind of get a SmackDown. It'll just be a SmackDown with red, white, and blue paint all over it. Spider-Boss says, I'm trying to imagine Becky and Charlotte on the same team as Survivor Series. Can they coexist? Yeah. They might not be friends anymore, but neither are Becky and Shotzi, because they don't really know each other. People can still work together and it won't really be an issue. This, of course, necessitates, as I mentioned, the Drew McIntyre heel turn. I do expect after Wargames, we start to build towards Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre formally turning heel in the build to further feuds in the likes of Randy Orton and more against Seth Rollins. That said, Drew McIntyre I can see being someone who eventually swaps sides and goes to SmackDown to face off against the top faces there, such as Kevin Owens and Sheamus. Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre we've had a lot of, but I still don't hate the idea. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat. Welcome, Marcel. And Eric says, when do you think the Kabuki Warriors are going for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships? I don't necessarily, particularly when you consider that they're part of Damage Control at the moment, and we are walking into the wide open, wonderful world of Wargames upcoming. So when it comes to the Tag Team Championships, the Tag Team Champions in general have been featured so little, that I don't necessarily think there's any particular benefit in actually having a team like Kabuki Warriors recombine to go for them. Now, at the moment, Triple H is definitely working on the tag division, both on the men's and the women's, so I'm not necessarily against it. I think they could definitely benefit from having that team involved, but at the same time, I don't want Damage Control to become Judgment Day and just have all of the championships. It would be kind of disconcerting and not really going very far, you know? I don't know. It doesn't really go very far for me. We have a JD troll. Joey says, do you see Logan and Dom teaming up against Rey and Ricochet for a future match since they've teased it a lot? They're teasing it at the moment. I think they have a shared history that they don't really need to discuss too much. I don't think they'd be too great as a tag team. It just doesn't quite work for me. That said, Logan Paul in general, he gets a very, very strong amount of heat. And Dominic Mysterio is kind of the perfect person to work with him in that regard. Will it be Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, though? Will it just be two people who are equally insufferable being equally insufferable together? Because I feel like that's really watered down Austin Theory. And yeah, Grayson Waller's got great chops, he knows how to talk, but he hasn't really been on his show recently because he's instead been wrestling, so it's kind of watered down Grayson Waller as well. When you put two people together who have very similar gimmicks, there's some huge similarities there that really doesn't help it. Richard says, based on the booking, I thought we'd see Becky versus Xia Li opening up a spot for Jade. Still possible. I mean, if you're going to introduce Jade Cargill, I still think the Royal Rumble will be the time. That is, after all, how they introduced Lacey Evans way back when. And I just think that's a way to set up whatever is going to be the plan for WrestleMania. When it comes to Wargames, I wouldn't want to throw her in at the deep end like that because, you know, there's a lot of different spots you have to try and keep track of, and especially when you consider there are some people you're not going to fully understand the calls that they're making if you've been in WWE for a very short amount of time. That's why they have NXT, that's why they have the Performance Center. That's why you'll notice that on AJ Styles' debut, he was getting instructions from Chris Jericho in the Rumble, and he wasn't reacting to them. So, an example of this. Chris Jericho, when he's going into the walls of Jericho, if it's not going to work, he likes to try the turn and then the flip. And literally, you just turn slightly and he does a big jump. That, long term, is something that we've seen hundreds of times. It's just something he likes to do as a transitional move to really, you know, tease the concept. AJ Styles didn't read it. He had no idea what was going on. That, I feel, is some of the ways that Jade Cargill could be exposed a little bit more than she'd necessarily be looking for, and certainly a lot more than I think WWE would be looking for in that regard as well. The dude says, Logan is taking the US title everywhere and promoting it, including on Fox News. Between that and Gunter's IC reign, it's nice to see both mid-card titles mean something again. That's the entire reason that WWE gave him the championship. I've made the comparison to Bad Bunny and the 24/7 title. They just won eyes. Wiggly said, I miss when Carrie used to play the Kabuki Warriors theme on the recorder. The day will come again. The day will come again. You know how this works. The day will come again. She can be so disrespectful as a heel, and I absolutely love it. King Arthur says, hey Tom, I don't want Cody to beat Roman. I want Roman to pass Hogan's championship run. I don't think you're going to get your wish there. Roger says, WWE feels if they want CM Punk, they can have him. However, WWE higher-ups have told myself and talent they don't and aren't in talks. The source is Sean Ross Sapp. As I've been saying for a long, long time now, There is no interest from the WWE in CM Punk. None. None whatsoever. Spider-Boss says, with a possible team for Survivor Series Wargames we could see, I wonder if Damage Control can win. Last year, Becky and Bianca defeated Damage Control at Survivor Series. We'll see. Personally, I definitely think this is a moment when either Bayley gets pinned or Kairi Sane picks up a big win. Wiggly says, random question, where do you rank Beth Phoenix amongst the all-time great female wrestlers? Personally, I put her at number 1. I do not put her at number 1. I'm not going to rank people in that regard. It's a bit disrespectful to them. What I will say is that the Four Horsewomen and the generation since are tremendous wrestlers compared to what came before. Hector says, Tom, what would you like to see Sheamus do once he returns? He's definitely earned a match at Mania. Maybe he'll take the title from Logan Paul. I don't see it. I see Logan Paul versus LA Knight, personally. I don't think Sheamus is going to wrestle at Mania. I just don't see it. Caesar says, quite accurately, thanks for the watch time. Appreciate it, Caesar. Wiggly says, am I edgy by saying I really don't see the appeal of LA Knight? No, you've got what's called an opinion, and that's cool. Zane says, do you think FTR are the best tag team in the world? I mean, they're good. I've seen plenty of them live and really enjoyed it. Really quite liked it. Is there really someone in the chat right now with the word Trump at the beginning of the name? Like, what are you doing? Joey says, did you see Sheamus is advertised for some upcoming shows? What do you see him doing when he's back? Wrestling primarily. Yeah, getting in matches and occasionally hitting someone in the chest with a big fist. Not sure what Off the Script is, to be honest with you, mate. Not sure. Is that the brand name for your show? Because I'd imagine, like, I've not seen you here before, so I'd imagine, like, spoiler warning is this show. Is Off the Script your show? Brad says, who do you think the devil is? Luke Perry. It'd be hilarious. She also says, I'm surprised WWE lets Logan take the US title everywhere without fear of the title being stolen or lost. They're really not worried. Even if it was stolen or lost, they have others. Khalid's excited by the idea of LA Knight versus Logan Paul. The other Mike says, when do you think Randy returns? At Wargames on the upcoming episode of Raw. I don't think he'll return at Wargames. I think this week we see Drew McIntyre's return, and then we move on, as it were. You can shout out my channel as much as you want, JD. I'm never going to have an issue with that. Is Jerry your actual name? Can you say I'm Jerry, I'm Tom, so Tom and Jerry, that doesn't quite work out. Too many comparisons. Spider-Boss says, I thought Grayson Waller would do well on the main roster. Now he's in a tag team with Austin Theory. They're a little bit similar. It doesn't make sense to have them together. Do I mean Jack Perry, Leon? I keep saying Luke Perry. Do I mean Jack Perry? Do I mean Steve Perry? Difference between shouting out and shouting at, Wiggly. It's the accent, mate. I thought you'd get that. You live here. Next up, I want to talk about... It's alright, Wiggly, don't worry. I want to talk about the video we put out yesterday, Sunday. The channel is still relatively small. We've only recently broken 5,000 subscribers. So I can say with great pride that the last 2 Sunday videos we've put out have both broken 2,000 views by quite some margin. We're about to get there with the video on Vince McMahon and him essentially no longer being wanted in WWE, and we did very well on the video last week about Ric Flair as well. The record video so far is the one talking about CM Punk trying to use wrestling media to get back into the WWE. That video has reached more than 67,000 views, which once again, my channel only has about 5,000 subscribers, so that's an incredible number. On the back of that, the WTF wrestling brand continues to do extremely well, and I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has jumped in, who's hit like, who's watched it, and in many ways has left at least a comment there as well. There are many different ways that this channel can be supported by yourselves, watching a video to the end, leaving a like, and leaving a comment. They have really been the reason that these videos have done so well. More than 100 comments on the Ric Flair video, which means 1 in every 20 views left a comment. It's absolutely magnificent stuff. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you everyone for continuing to support these videos and continuing to indulge me in getting them out. Yeah, I know, Ashley. I know, don't worry. Don't worry. I know. King Arthur says, hey Tom, do you feel the crowd will turn on Cody if LA Knight does not win the Royal Rumble? No. Why? No. There are no rumours of LA Knight winning the Rumble. The rumours are of Cody. Joey says the CM Punk video is almost at 70k views, might hit 100k by the end of this year. Well, I mean, it's a little bit timeless. It's a little bit timeless. And I'm particularly proud of what we're creating at the moment. Ross says, really enjoyed the Flair and McMahon videos. Thank you very much for that one, Ross. I have been putting as much effort as I can into them, trying to really make them pop. And particularly the beginning of the video here, trying to keep that retention rate up. We don't quite have the watch time this time around, so I'm worried I might have sort of driven some people away with what I did in the beginning of the video this time around. But long term, I'm sure viewers will start to recognise what I'm trying to do here. Daniela says, good evening, Tom. What do you reckon is happening between the talks that Lashley and B-Fab have been having on SmackDown? I think it's fairly straightforward. I think B-Fab knows how to make a big deal out of the name B-Fab. Bobby Lashley is making big deals out of people right now. Adrian thinks LA Knight is a mid-carder at best. I certainly think the mid-card is where he will be staying. Spider-Boss says the way WWE is slowly building Bayley's babyface turn, a lot of B's there, is really good. Bayley made me laugh when she said she doesn't hug anymore on last SmackDown. I enjoyed that. I also pointed out during the watch party that the red trousers that she was wearing in her promo were the same red trousers she was wearing the last time she saw Kairi Sane. Brad says, where has Dr. Britt been? Injured, and she will be back shortly. Joey says, I'd really like to see a vid on AEW's upcoming TV deal and TK making secret roster cuts. I do not have the available evidence to provide that. WTF Wrestling is not about what I've been reporting, though I do actually mention what I've been reporting in the build-up to it. What it's about is quite simple. It's about what other people are reporting and why they're reporting it. It's about narratives, and it's about what the media are trying to make us believe. Yes, Ross, I have a few different ideas for Sunday videos. The plan is to do one every single week. So every week I put some ideas together, pitch a few, and then basically write out what comes next. I have a document, a Google document, as it were, which tells me everything I need to know and also has a selection of links that I use for our sourcing. Sai, by the way, is now putting together some graphics and some overlays purely for WTF Wrestling to really make the brand pop. Jack says, everybody keeps saying Cody will fight Roman, but nobody can tell me how is Cody fighting for the title if Triple H said no Raw wrestler can hold the SmackDown title and vice versa. Triple H might change his mind. King Ad says, hey Tom, who do you think will dethrone MJF? I think Adam Cole. Me too. And Jack says they said Cody will not win back-to-back Rumbles. Who said that? Or what's his source on that one, Jack? Just querying. Sean says, I went and saw The Marvels. It was an okay movie. It's not got the greatest ratings. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. 3 pieces of news left to go. Can I ask that we get, if you can, 2 more likes? We're currently on 38. 2 more takes us up to 40, and I'd very much appreciate it. Blair Hathaway says, will Man Mountain Rock ever be in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely he will. He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he should absolutely be the one. Spiderboss says, do you think the AEW women's division could get more TV time after Full Gear? No, I reckon they'll get less again. Tony Khan keeps forgetting that they're there. Ashley says, will you see the Iron Claw movie when it comes out? Probably. I mean, talent's talent. And Greatest Showman was certainly good, so why not? Adrian's bet for the Rumble is Drew McIntyre. Khalid says, I really appreciate the Nick and Tom show. Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure will, of course, be here on a couple of days. We never know what day, to be honest. But we'll be doing a live Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure mailbag once again, right before we go to Survivor Series, so in the days ahead of that. Moxie says, yo Tom. Welcome, Moxie. Joey says, if Drew re-signs, what do you see him doing at Mania? I see him doing at Mania exactly what he would also do if he didn't re-sign. Personally, I think that might be the Randy Orton moment for Drew McIntyre, but we'll see how it plays out. I personally don't think he's going to get what he's looking for. That's all I'll say. Dave Meltzer has confirmed my report that Brock Lesnar is due to return to the WWE at the Royal Rumble. The WWE are confident at this point that they have a new deal in place for him, and Brock is happy to work under Triple H and not Vince McMahon. What I will say is the return of the Royal Rumble opens doors. It does not mean that there is much chance of him winning. It does not mean that there is much chance of him going up against a Roman Reigns. But certainly if the final two are, for example, Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes, that would be a good way to ensure that Cody Rhodes gets a pop. What I would say, though, is that there is continuing momentum building backstage for a match that Brock Lesnar has requested before. A championship match. An intercontinental championship match. They spoke about it last year. They didn't make it happen because Drew McIntyre was already christened as the guy. He was already bestowed with that honour. But let me tell you what. Brock Lesnar and Gunther have both mentioned that they want to wrestle each other. And Brock Lesnar is seemingly happy to lose an Intercontinental Championship match to Gunther. Now, Gunther's on a tremendous run. I think a win over Brock Lesnar would really cement his position and cement the position of the Intercontinental title to the point then that unless Seth Rollins has a really big opponent lined up, Gunther might be taking the Intercontinental Championship higher than the World Heavyweight Championship. Razar says, who do you see Seth facing at WrestleMania if he's still champion? Seems like he gets lost in the shuffle. Hard to say. There's definitely a few people who could get the spot. I would have my eye on Gunther if that moment were to come. But there's a few more options there. Drew McIntyre is quite a clear option, I think, though Randy Orton could well get involved in that. There's a few people on the other side. Damian Priest, I think, could well be worth that time, particularly if he's won the championship by unscrupulous methods. We could have Damian Priest entering as champion and losing the championship back to Seth Rollins. Hector says, Tom hopped over to YouTube to give you a like, as I know it helps the channel. It does indeed, Hector, thank you kindly. We're up to 43 likes now, and I very much appreciate it. Moxley says you're on 5.3k on YouTube. Damn, I remember when you were on 300. Time flies, you deserve every bit of success you're getting. I'm proud of you, you've inspired me so much to never give up. Thank you, Moxley, that means a lot to me. That means a lot to me. I'm a firm believer in the concept of you kick and you goddamn scream. You never go quietly. It's a rule of my life. You never go quietly. You let them know. Stand by it. Sean says, we still never found out why Brock attacked Cody. Jealousy? I don't know. Adrian said, Rollins needs a gimmick change. His character has no direction for years. I've enjoyed the Messiah and the evolution since, though I do feel that he's one of those who struggles to maintain a face push for a long time. Wiggly says, Gunther will end 2024 as a World Heavyweight Champion or WWE Champion, I think, remaining unbeaten. I could see that. I could see him winning the World Heavyweight Championship and then relinquishing the Intercontinental. Spiderboss says, could we see Seth versus Cody for the World Heavyweight title? It's not impossible. And Khalid says, Tom, when Brock Lesnar returns, will he be a face? I find that very unlikely. He did leave as a heel. That said, it was a handshake. So, I don't know. King Azza says, do you see Cody and Jay? I'd imagine that's supposed to be winning the tag team championships. I don't. Jay versus Jimmy is already set for WrestleMania. Daz says, big up Tom. Welcome, Daz. Never got notification. Oh, sorry to hear that. Is there anything announced about Seth tonight? Not to my knowledge, no, though he of course will be there. If you're not getting notifications, please do have a quick double check that not only have you subscribed, but you've also hit the little bell next to it. That little bell ensures that you get notifications about my impending videos. Michael says, do you know anything about Serena Deeb? Looks like she was at Collision last week. She is potentially coming back to AEW, but there was a tryout and a trial involved, so I don't know how involved she would be in it. Moxley says, I would say have Finn versus Seth at Mania for the World Heavyweight Championship, then have Damien do the Heist of the Century 2.0, but on the man who created it, but also screwing over Finn by winning the title. I do like the idea of a second Heist of the Century. I've mentioned that before. As a WrestleMania cash-in, I think that's the way. And for that, I think Drew McIntyre would be the perfect person to be involved, because then he gets screwed all over again. Spiderboss says, I think the only way for Gunther to lose the IC title is in a multi-man IC title match. And Adrian says, do you see Mercedes Money debuting on Full Gear? No. No. If you pop back to about 7 minutes into the video, you'll see a report and an update on Mercedes Money's return schedule. A push is planned for Solo Sikoa. Now that he has beaten John Cena and that Roman Reigns is out of the picture, Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso will be separated at least a little more. Solo Sikoa will be treated as a bigger deal and a bigger threat, and will likely be wrestling against bigger names in a singular capacity. There has already been commentary on Solo Sikoa versus Sheamus impending, but also this will continue to build towards the idea of Solo Sikoa finally taking over and taking on Roman Reigns. They are trying to build Solo Sikoa as a singular, credible threat, and that means kind of forgetting a lot of what came before. I cannot, unfortunately. Connor trapped in the cupboard. We haven't seen him for a little while. I think he might have eventually passed out. Marcel says, who will face Solo at Mania? Maybe Cena in a rematch? I find that unlikely. As I say, I've mentioned a couple of people there. Sheamus is one for me. That could well be the one. Though, Solo versus Logan Paul would also be a lot of fun. No worries, Adrian. King Azza says, is it true that Cody and Roman will be an I Quit match at WrestleMania? Where'd you hear that, King Azza? Because I ain't got nothing on that. News to me. Cody doesn't even really have that many submission moves. Spider-Boss says, one thing's sure about the tag team title match on Raw is either Drew or someone from the Judgment Day getting involved, but I don't see the Judgment Day losing. I do feel this is the moment for Drew McIntyre to pick a side. Finally, the Bayley face turn is incoming. It was originally planned for just after this year's WrestleMania. That was changed by Vince McMahon, who essentially started off the storylines that we're seeing now with Io Sky getting the rub that she did. I was able to report ahead of time exactly who was going to win the Money in the Bank briefcases because I knew that this push was coming for Io Sky at the expense of Bayley. Now at the time, I personally believed that Bayley would be the heel and Io Sky the face. That clearly is not the situation now. The turning point will be Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai turning on Bayley will be what turns Bayley face. They're just waiting for the point at which Dakota Kai can do so without potentially aggravating an injury. As I say, she's likely going to be cleared before the end of the year, but whether or not they use her in that capacity remains to be seen. Bayley's face turn, I believe, will be in the build-up to the Royal Rumble, or just after the Royal Rumble, because I still firmly believe that Bayley will be winning the Royal Rumble to take on Io Sky at WrestleMania. And honestly, I don't think she's going to win. Be a big moment for her, though. That could absolutely be the main event of night one, I tell you that. Main event of night one, Bayley versus Io Sky. Main event of night two, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Or Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns. Or Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns versus Damian Priest. Joey says, could Bad Bunny work Mania next year? Oh, absolutely could. Absolutely he could. And Khalid says, can't wait to see Bayley turn face. That is all of the news that we have. If you haven't checked out the video on Triple H and Vince McMahon, please do so. It is on a hugely upward trajectory, and I want to keep that momentum going as much as I can. But in the meantime, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has joined me. We will be back for more spoiler warning on Friday. I'm still working out what to do with my Wednesdays. I think they're going to become pay-per-view predictions, pay-per-view match card predictions, and things like who's going to win the Men's Royal Rumble, top 10 list, etc. So I think they're going to become PLE Wednesdays, but we'll see how it goes from there. And there will be, this upcoming week, another members-only video detailing a couple of extra things as to why I'm laying out the channel the way that I am at the moment. One more thing I do have to point out. I have to give you an update on something that I mentioned on Friday. Apologies that this will bring the mood down a little bit, so slight trigger warning. If it's not for you, I completely understand. But I do just want to give you a heads up that I mentioned on Friday that my stepdad had gone into hospital on Wednesday. We didn't necessarily think he was going to come out. He was a stringent military man. He was in the Navy for many, many years. And on the 11th of November, Armistice Day, he unfortunately passed away. Just wanted to give everyone a heads up on that. I'm not going to stay on at this point. I just wanted to let people know who I did mention it to. That's happened. We weren't the closest, but in my life, I've had a couple of different stepdads, and he was by far the best. I'm a stepdad myself, so I have to give him some credit for that. It hasn't really hit me yet. I'm sure it's going to. By and large, I'm okay. But if I'm not 100% over the next few weeks, that's why. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Say a huge thank you to everyone for watching and to everyone for the well wishes they've already given me. I've been Tom Colohue. You guys have been fantastic. And I'll see you all very soon.